Forget all that. It's Joker 2, you bitches.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Go for it, Gus.
By definition alone, they're inferior films. Films. Sequels suck. Sequels suck. Sequels suck. Films.
Welcome back, movie fans. This is Sequels Suck, the podcast that talks all things sequels, prequels, and remakes. And this week, we got a whole crew here to talk about a movie that, to say the least, has been mixed in its responses from audiences. We've got Regan, we've got Shaun, we've got Cable, we've got me, I'm Gus, and we are talking Joker, Folie, Deux. How's it going, team? We good?
Excellent. So happy to be here.
Kicking goals.
It's
beautiful.
Amazing that we've managed to get the four of us together. I'm stoked because when Cable and I were talking about doing this episode, I was the one who I saw the film and I messaged him. I said, we have to talk about it, obviously. No one else had seen it, which I think goes to where the box office is at for this movie. But the first thing I said after we have to do it is we have to get more than just us, because the plethora of opinions that I've seen on this movie, I don't think just having Cable and I would have done it justice. So I'm stoked, Shaun and Regan, that you can be on board to talk this sequel.
I'm just glad. I will be on any film. I will be on any film podcast if you tell me Regan was going to be there. I'm just going to put that out.
The most beautiful thing I've ever heard. This is also like the 7th podcast I've recorded in a week as well. So I'm the pod master.
I'm actually
mate.
I'm actually disappointed, Shaun. I felt like you should have sung that to Shaun. To Regan. And then Regan sing it. Yeah.
There's still time. There's still time.
This is number one. So
let's have a long show then, shall we? And I'll see how much I get into my tea as well. I'll be playing the Lady Gaga role, just so you know.
Lady Gaga.
I'm gonna manipulate the shit out of you, and then dump you when you decide to be a better man. Anyway,
that's nice. That's good. Always really beautiful as hosts of a show to know that the guests are here because they like each other and also are tired.
And not
that's
sure.
great. that's the takeaway. Cable and I could leave, and you guys would be like, fucking even better. Now it's the best podcast.
We're just going to talk
Regan
about...
and I start talking about Under Siege 2 or something.
I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Dark Territory, bring me right back for that, absolutely.
Dark Territory? Is that what? That's not what Under Siege 2 is called, is
Under
it?
Siege 2, Dark Territory.
Dark Territory, he's right.
Wow. I can't remember. Was it advertised in Australia?
You two are embarrassing yourself just now.
Sequel Suck podcast. You don't even know about the goddamn Dark Territories.
No.
I don't know, but I can't remember. It was one of those... Wow.
In Australia, to be fair, in Australia it was called Under Siege 2, but in America it was called Dark Territory.
Yeah, there we go. I'm picturing the VHS box that I grew up with.
He's hanging off the side of a train like an absolute gangster. Yeah.
Gotta save my daughter.
Seagal's always. I know we're not talking about Seagal, but Seagal's always like really, like he's always really, like he's one of those dudes. Like you take any of those big action heroes of the 80s and 90s, right? And they all had this. You could see this progression where they went from being the guy behind the gun to sort of moving up, and Seagal was the exact opposite. See, he was the only one of those guys that just showed up fully formed.
Yeah,
like his first film, was Nico Above the Law, and he was just the star. Yeah. That was it. Like he had no other bit parts. Like he's a weird phenomenon.
Well, I mean, if you were the embodiment of a living god, you'd be fucking famous straight out the gate as well. That dude is Buddha or something. Isn't that what happens? Someone said that.
Well, it's interesting that we are talking about
Seagal
because he is essentially a real life version of Lady Gaga in Joker Folie Deux, because he just tricked everyone and fucked with everyone's head to make everyone think that he was A, good, and B, not insane. Yep. And then as soon as people like he's like, my goodness, anyone who does like 5 minutes of research after listening to this episode into Seagal, you realize he is one of like the top 20 all-time shitbags. He is a horrible person who is horrible,
and one of the weirdest homies you'll ever meet.
You know? And just lied to everyone about everything. There's great like supercuts of him trying to explain his heritage, where he will say, "I'm Navajo,"
I've seen
and then the
that.
next interview is like, "I never knew my mother," and then the next interview is like, "Yeah, we're all German," and then the next interview is like,
Yeah.
"We are people from
I
all
was
over the
actually,
globe."
I was actually born in Vladivostok.
Yeah.
Like he is all over the shop.
It's
Well, I mean, to bring it
insane.
back to Folie Deux, he's like the Joker. He's creating his own narrative, and people get behind him.
Yeah.
And even despite the Marlon Brando-esque weight gain that happened, very, very quickly, and when he was doing that show where he was a marshal or whatever's going on,
That wasn't a show. That was life. He was a
That was
cop.
Yeah, that was
reality.
the legit shit. People are going, "Are you Stephen?" Like, imagine if you were driving around here and someone pulls you over, like you two, you guys, you're driving around, whatever, and you get pulled over, and it's Toadie from fucking Neighbours, and he's like, "Aren't you Toadie from Neighbours?" Like,
Fucking best day of my
Except
life.
now Toadie's so fat that he needs a stunt double to roll under a fence. Like he's a big boy these days.
Is
He's
he?
a big boy. Oh,
Ooh.
Steven Seagal, big boy. Yeah.
yeah, it's all that Russia money that he's enjoying. Sorry, joke satire. If anyone's listening,
allegedly, for entertainment purposes only.
Exactly.
Anyway,
what are we doing?
Back on track. So on to Siege 2, like I said.
Yeah,
A perfectly insane start to a perfectly insane film. To try and get it back on track, were we all fans of the original? I enjoyed it, but I, to date, have only seen it once. Do you guys all fans of it?
I saw it a couple of times, and I thought it was excellently executed as a piece of cinema. It was beautifully shot, it's a fantastic score. Joaquin's performance is incredible. I don't know who he beat that year at the Oscars, but it was certainly Oscar worthy. And no one ever talks about the fact that two people have won Academy Awards for playing the Joker.
Isn't it back to
That's
back
also
too
odd.
in terms of
Yeah,
back to back portrayals?
Yeah, strange. But anyway, and but I only saw it once at the cinema, and then I think once at home. So yeah, I liked it, but I didn't have a super strong relationship with it. My business partner Dan, who's our audio engineer and sort of the head of our audio department, loves it. It's one of his favourite movies, and he's the reason I'm kind of okay. He's the reason I feel okay about the second one, whereas everybody else is ready to pitchforks and pistols at dawn and whatever.
Yeah. I'm similar to you. I really liked it. Didn't get around to seeing it anytime soon. And I think I was saying to Angus the other day, I only rewatched it for the first time probably since I saw it at the cinemas. And again, I was thinking I was going to be not bored, but it's I didn't feel like I was in the mood for it. And as soon as I put it on, I was well in that world. And I think I loved it the second time around even better. The Joker is my favourite villain in the all sort of both Marvel and DC universe. So, anyway, it was I think it was a very good Joker origin film. Again, I'm confused as to why DC do that one off and not think that there may be opportunity for further films or a further universe, but that's a whole other argument. And it was supposed to be a one-off, and they decided eventually, obviously, money talks, and it's we're going to do a sequel.
I was going to say it's supposed to be a one-off, $1 billion, and then fucking everyone's, can we do it? Yeah.
Yeah, an Academy Award nomination for Best Director, Best Film, and a win for Best Actor, and suddenly everyone's like, maybe we go again.
Yeah.
To answer your question,
sorry, go.
I was just saying, to answer your question, he beat out for his Academy Award Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, all of which totally make sense to me. The only one I'm like,
seems like a bit of a weak pool to draw from that year, mind you. To be fair,
and the other
Pain and
nominee
Glory
was
is fucking excellent,
DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I think that's probably the only one where I was like, that's a pretty fucking good role. But
it's too much of a comedy piece, though. I think it's too much of the.
Well, that's the thing. And the Academy only likes Tarantino so much. So I'm not surprised that and Brad won. So I guess they weren't going to hand over too many Oscars for that movie. But
QT hasn't got a Best Picture yet, so.
He hasn't. He has not. And so it was not, look, all great performances, but it wasn't one of those years where you look at it and be like, I can't believe he beat blah, blah, blah. That's the greatest performance of all time. It's not like, we were talking about Gladiator last episode. It's not like when Gladiator didn't win Best Picture. When Ridley Scott didn't win Best Director for Gladiator, and everyone was like, what the fuck happened? When it went to...
It's a weird one, because the original Joker, I'm like you guys, I've only seen it once in the cinema back when it came out in 2019. And it's one of those films it shouldn't work. It just shouldn't work, right? It's kind of like it's a little bit of a film that nobody really asked for. Like, I don't give a shit where the Joker comes from, right? I don't care. Right? If you were going to pitch me a Joker film, Todd Phillips would be exactly second last on the fucking bottom of the list, right? Like, so you want the guy that fucking directed The Hangover, you want me to, but again, it's one of those ones where the same way Sam Mendes came in and kicked James Bond out of the park, the same way Peter Jackson came in and kicked Heavenly Creatures out of the park. It's maybe that tension between the styles that's maybe letting us receive this powerhouse kind of thing. But Joker, for all the reasons that it shouldn't work, it's all the reasons that it was fucking fantastic. It was a really solid film. Granted, we'd seen it before. Like, it's the king of comedy by any other name, right? Taxi Driver, blah blah blah. But it's all glued together, like Regan says. It's all glued together with all these great, like, it was beautifully shot, beautifully scored, beautifully performed, beautifully paced, right? It was everything just coalesced perfectly in this neat little $50 million film that deservedly went on to make $1 billion at the box office. But fuck, man, that's probably where it should have stayed. Like, it shouldn't have. Right, it just should have. Like, it was all wrapped up in it wasn't a neat little bow. There was obviously that little bit of ambiguity, but it was wrapped up in a way that was satisfying. That if that's all we got for the end of time, it'd be like Fight Club. Like, you're just like, I'm okay with never having seen a Fight Club too. But here we are.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're back in the world of Joker in the year of 2024. They've brought in the fan favorite / now legendary character of Harley Quinn that has grown exponentially from the animated series to become one of the definitive DC characters at the moment. And Todd Phillips is back. The world is back. Joaquin obviously is back. We're continuing straight on almost from where we left off. And people have been confused, to put it gently, by this film. So I suppose, like, I am most curious of all to know, because I haven't asked any of you directly, how we feel about it. So let's figure this out. Cable, like, how do you feel about Joker Folie Deux? Did you enjoy this movie?
I actually did.
Wow.
It was still different. I'm very much like what Sean was just saying. The Joker is my favorite villain in, like I said, both sort of universes. But I can also say that while I enjoyed the Joker film, it didn't need to exist. It's a bit like doing the Han Solo prequel thing. It's like, it was good to see it, but it didn't need to exist. There was nothing to justify its existence. And so coming to a sequel like this, I was like, where are they going to go with it? Unless they had any grand plans to somehow tie it into an expanded universe, I'm not too sure. They obviously introduced Harvey Dent, who we see gets a little bit of the damage to the face and all that sort of stuff, but they kind of feel like they changed Harley Quinn's history a little bit. It's a little bit different to what we know.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Are we just told? Because we don't know if anything she says is real.
Well, that's true too. I guess,
that's the fucking. I don't know. I can't tell if it's an amazing accident or a work of genius. Is the narration, that is to say, the narrative structure is told by the most unreliable narrators, that it gives you so much fucking leeway. Like, it could be a mistake or it could be deliberate, and either way, it will still work within the parameters of this film. Anyway, sorry, Cable, to keep going. I think it's a fucking. No, I can't work that part out.
Well, you bring up a good point, because I think that's, if you haven't seen the Joker for a second or third time, it actually is so much better on a rewatch too, because I feel like there is so much ambiguity on what is real, what's in his head, what's in his mum's head. There's so much, all these layers to the first film as well that really benefit from a rewatch. And you still don't know what's 100% real. And then you go into this, and again, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, there's so much of what I was watching. I'm like, is this actually really happening? Is this part of the fantasy? Is this the Joker? Is this Arthur? Or is this Harley Quinn? I don't fucking know what's really going on. I was going for the ride and I have to try and, I guess, work it out in the end. But
I think Sean, makes a point there beautifully and so succinctly, as is his wont, about it being the unreliable narrator. Because, and you're like, you don't know whether it's the case or not. It absolutely is the case that they're doing that, because it gives them so much, like, story pipe. Like, they can go in any direction, and they got everything they need. So what is the Joker seeing? Like, you're right, Cable. Is the first picture majority of that in his head? You even see is it Zazie Beats?
Zazie Beats, yeah.
Zazie Beats is in this one again. Coming out to a testimonial, and when he's being in the courtroom, and you kind of, I remembered that part. Oh yeah, that was all him, and it's the same here. And it loops back. How are we going for spoilers here? Are we going to?
yeah,
I mean, everyone who listens to this show should know spoilers, but I'll just say right now, spoil fucking city. We are going to give it all away.
Spoil city limits. When it comes back to, you find out that he's like, there never was a Joker. I'm not that. And she says, deuces, I'm out. And then it looks like what happens to him at the end is he gets shanked by the actual Joker. That's the kind of thing where, Sean, you were saying, like, are you not sure if it's for real or not? That's how they got there. To say all of these people are telling all these stories that are so conflicting. Like, who is that guy? Where does he come from? Did that really happen? Like, it's so, it's always moving. There's always something going, much like the Aurora Borealis behind me.
Yeah, I mean, we're jumping around a bit, but we're talking about the ending. One of the things that annoyed me about the original Joker is, much like everyone else on this episode, I freaking love the Joker. Batman, like, my favorite sort of superhero world to dive into, and the Joker is just such a phenomenally well-written character that's been done so much good service through so many good writers. The idea that you would name him and kind of give him a backstory that was like, this is the story of how the Joker came to be, really frustrated me, because and I've said it so many times on this show, but it is the John Carpenter ideal of, you never explain the monster. As soon as you do, it's ruined. You don't do it. It makes it not scary. It makes it not
Rob Zombie, fucking shut up with your goddamn Halloween pictures.
Oh, don't start that. Don't start that yet.
But the idea that they would have a whole movie is like, this is the story of the Joker, made me, from like a concept, go fuck off. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, okay, I get what you're doing. Like, it's not quite that, but still, this fucking guy, Arthur Fleck, that's his name, and that's kind of, for better or worse, how much you believe of what's going on. This is sort of this movie's version of the Joker. The idea that we would get, not at the start, at the end of over like 5 hours of film, at the end of the second film, this throwaway moment where there's the idea planted that's like, actually, fuck you, this guy was never the Joker. The real Joker killed this fucking guy for being a pussy, and now he's going to go with the Joker, and we have no idea who he is. He has no name. He has no backstory. He just didn't like this guy doing this. When they did that, I was like, this is genius. This is a genius move to put into this movie, because at the end of all of this misdirection and all of this unreliable narrator story, all of this constant rug pull out that we are given, particularly in the second one, to get to the end and be like, and none of it fucking matters. Fuck you, we're out. Just because what it feels like, and this is what makes me enjoy Joker Folie do so much, and I don't think I've said this out loud yet, but I fucking love this movie. What I enjoy so much is this movie feels like the movie that the Joker would make if someone said, make us a Joker movie.
It starts with an animated sequence, of course. Yeah.
Everything away at the start. The opening cartoon basically tells you flat out, this is all a big fucking joke. This isn't real. We're fucking around. We're not doing anything real. You're not going to get what you want. We're trying to get out of the shadow from the first one because we do not like what you did with that. We do not like what pop culture did with the Joker. You missed the point. And so here is the movie we're going to make. But it feels like if the camera ever turned around, the director would be the real life Joker, just being like, fuck you. Look what I made you watch. Like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful joke to play in an audience. And fuck me, is it interesting? Not just the film, the fact that it happened, the fact that it even exists, but the actual story. Sean's going to interject.
I think that's my big gripe with the film, right? Is that I think the film's design and execution is more interesting than the film itself.
Yeah, good
I
point.
can agree with that.
I actually think that the Joker, I'm just going to call it Joker 2 for ease. I actually think Joker 2, it gets a lot right for my money. It gets a lot right, right? I think that DOP is in shit hot form, right? Film looks gorgeous, right?
God, it looks good.
Joaquin Phoenix nailing it. Lady Gaga, right? Even I have problems with her. I'm sure we'll get to her. I have problems with her, but it gets a lot of things right. But the the one thing that it gets wrong is it's fucking boring, right? It's boring. It's a boring film. It's 2.25 hours long, and it needs 30 minutes cut out of it, man. Like they don't get to the courtroom till 60 minutes. They need to be getting to the courtroom at 35 minutes. Like there's too much time set up at the beginning. Like there's too it's and as a result, the film feels like, certainly for this humble reviewer, it feels like you're walking through like molasses to try and get to right where the fuck are we going here, man? And it's easy to say the fans or the detractors would say, oh, but it's a slow burn. They're setting you up so that they can, 1-2 you at the end. But the problem is that you don't quite get the 1-2. You get the
No.
one.
Yeah.
You get the one with that little moment at the end where you get shanked, and you're like, if only the rest of the film was as interesting as this, would probably be walking away feeling much more satisfied as an audience. I think. I think
needed
the
to be-
concept.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go. No, I was going to say the concept is more interesting than the film, and I'm going to fucking stick by that until the end of this podcast.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And the sort of the confluence of events, it plays like it should be just a drama, and it's not. Like it's still a comic book movie. So yeah, you get to that, the explosion at the courthouse, and then it should be something else. You know what I mean? It goes like this, and then straight back down again. There's no actual sort of building of that last arc. And
Yeah, I agree.
Alex, my camera assistant, who's a big Joker fan, and she came and saw it with me, and I wasn't even going to go and see it. Dan was just like, "You got to see it, man. It's awesome." And so we went, and she was like, "It kind of just didn't go anywhere, did it?" And I guess that's kind of the point. But you're right. I mean, you kind of expect something to happen. Maybe the clue as well to the identity of Arthur Fleck and what he means in the grander scheme of things, which ended up being fucking nothing, is the title. There's no the. We keep saying the Joker. My favorite's the Joker. It's not. It's Joker or Joker Folie Deux. There's no the. I think that is a biological field note about who this guy is. It's not actually a character.
Yeah.
Joker is the being. It is not this one person. Yeah. And then this new guy, Mr. Stabby Stabby Slicey Slicey, that is the Joker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, I
That's a good
agree
point,
with you both that there are times of this movie where it feels like it's dragging its heels a bit. But in the moment, I was like, okay, like let's move it on. It wasn't until it finished and I stepped back and looked at it as a whole that I sort of appreciated why it was the way it was, because it feels like all of those dragged out moments are a part of the joke. Like it has to go for a bit too long before we get to the court scene, so that when it finally does shift, we're like, here we go. And we are expecting at that point that this is it. Like this is when we're getting the movie that we all thought we were going to get before Joker 2 came out, when everyone's like, it's going to be like, he's going to go on a rampage. It's going to be crazy or whatever. It reminds me a lot of like the classic Aristocrats joke, where it sort of it doesn't matter what the beginning of it is, but it goes as long as you want it to go, and it goes wherever you want it to go. And at the end, it's going to get to a one-word punchline that could have been told in three sentences or less. And that feels sort of like what they're doing.
But the difference is the Aristocrats joke is
going.
fucking hilarious. The difference is the fucking Aristocrats joke is fucking hilarious. The Joker is mildly amusing.
Well, I find the punchline
Joker 2 is
hilarious.
mildly amusing.
I find I'm more entertained by, and maybe this is a fault in the movie, and I'll fully accept that, but I'm more entertained by it after the fact than I am watching it. Like it almost feels like an art piece more than a movie.
It is.
Where Todd Phillips and Joaquin got together and like, do you remember when you pretended to lose your mind to become a rapper and you made a whole movie about it, and then at the end you're like, no, it was a joke. Do you want to do that again, but with $1 billion franchise?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
The whole
That's
thing
exactly
is a
what
joke on
it
the
is.
audience.
It's true because the musical side of it is what's throwing
We haven't
everyone.
even touched on yet. It's
And
also
I'm like,
kind of a musical, but not really.
yeah, but it's the way that it's shot, and I'll talk about the sort of actual production of this music and the sound design and stuff a little bit later. But just in terms of it being like music videos, so much so that there's fucking set pieces and things burning down and dances, and there's like I make
And
music
Lady
videos
Gaga
for a living.
is
Like that's
the
what it
second
is.
lead.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So that's. You're right. It's way more of an art installation than it is a movie, like you said, that's part of $1 billion franchise.
But then that to me is an interesting idea, but I don't know if it's a successful idea. And I don't know if I don't know if the fault of that lies with Todd Phillips or if the fault of that lies with us, the audience, and our expectation.
It's absolutely us. It's absolutely us.
And it really
It
plays
is.
with that
I think
expectation.
it is and it isn't because once you put something out like Joker, the original one, then by the very nature of it, then it has to become the audience's. Like it has to, right? Once it's out there and the audience embraces it or they reject it, whatever happens, right? Then it has to become. Then whatever happens after that, then I don't know. It feels like it's disrespectful. I feel like it's brave, but it's disrespectful. Like I just do. It's brave that you should make such bold decisions. It's brave that you should go from a $50 million budget to $200 million. Where did that $200 million go?
What?
A lot of that went into
$100 million
Joaquin's pocket, I'm
budget.
sure.
Yeah, that's salary.
Where did that $200 million go? Because this film doesn't look that much better than the first one.
No,
I'm
it certainly
sorry.
does not. A lot of it is interiors.
Exactly
Most of
right.
it is interiors. Yeah.
Most of it is interiors.
Maybe that one explosion was really expensive.
Did not look expensive.
It did look
did
cheap.
not look.
It looked
It's the
soundstagey
period
and rubber
nature
foam.
of it. It's the salaries. It would be Todd Phillips's salary would have gone up as well.
But you say period nature, but like I said, compared to the first one, they're outside a lot more. This one was
That's very true. Yeah, there's a lot more sort of
driven,
rebuilding of stuff. Yeah.
Do we actually know? I mean, like I'm assuming based on the cinema and like buckets of blood and all that kind of stuff, it's the 70s. But like, I assume that it's the 70s. Is it the 70s we're in?
I
It
don't
was
think
early
it's
80s, but that's just
explicitly
me.
stated in either film, is it? It has the aesthetic
Well,
of the 70s, 80s because it's aping
Oh.
Taxi Driver and King
Yeah,
of Comedy,
yeah.
the first one, and
I
they
was-
just kind of carried that over.
I always thought it was mid 70s, and I wasn't too sure. And I know they play "My Life" by Billy Joel, which would be about that time, or maybe kind of late 70s. But you notice the one thing.
Fucking Rain Man over here.
Yeah,
Billy
no,
Joel.
but,
Only for
1970s.
Billy Joel. Only for Billy Joel stuff. It's like everything else is just normal, but for Billy Joel, it's like definitely
Every important event in his life is around
I
Billy
was
Joel.
actually thinking that. I was actually looking for, do we ever get evidence of the time, apart from they do mention the month. They say it's November, whatever. They don't say the year.
Yeah, in the court, I noticed that as well because I was watching. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
no.
and then
November 17th.
But then the thing that did I thought gave it a bit of a time frame, but I don't know when they're invented. I should have looked this up. There's obviously answering
Tarzos.
machines.
He had Tarzos on him, if you remember. That's just, must have
Piles
been
of
82.
fucking Tazos.
When were answering machines around? I feel like that was more an 80s invention, but I could be wrong. Because there's answering machines in this, so...
I think I'm the oldest person on this podcast, and I don't know.
Are you? I thought I was older. Are you older than me?
I'm 42.
Yeah, you're older than me. God, you
Yeah,
look
I turned 42
good.
yesterday, motherfucker.
Oh,
I'm actually
happy
the
birthday, my
oldest,
dude.
I think I've got you covered.
How old are you?
Really? You've got that Benjamin Button. You're going backwards, mate.
yeah. Well, I noticed you shaved.
44.
You've shaved and you've taken like 10 years off. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's I'd missed the salt and pepper, I've got to be honest with you. But that's kind of why I came on the show, but whatever. We can talk about Joker if you want.
The answering machine was
Yeah.
invented in 1935, so that doesn't help us at all.
So was fucking Superman and shit. That's ages ago.
So this movie is set anytime
World
from
War II.
1936 onwards.
Yeah. And do you know who had it? You know who had it? It was the three people who had a phone at the time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
great.
made my fucking night.
Well, there you go.
Amazing.
Great.
Just gonna laugh about the invention of the fucking phone.
I think something else that this film made me think about after the fact, because I have not stopped thinking about it, is it is a very clear and blatant response to the first film. The cartoon at the start about trying to escape the shadow, the scene where he escapes the courtroom, gets in the car with the guys who are dressed up like him. He runs away from them and they're running after going, come back. We love you, Joker. We love you. Joker, come back.
Yeah.
Is very clearly everyone involved in the film going, we don't want that. But what it also feels like, and this I think goes to a bit about what you're saying, Sean, about like it potentially feels disrespectful, but I guess it's the eye of the beholder. It feels like a response to the last fucking 15 years of Marvel movies, just cramming sequel after sequel after sequel into us, going,
That's also true.
it's the same movie again, but this time with Iron Man. It's the same movie again, but this time with Hulk. And this one is essentially saying, like, you remember how every superhero movie gets a sequel and the sequel is just setting up a universe? We're doing the opposite.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah.
giving
doing
you
a
nothing
fucking
of what you want,
proper
and at the end,
musical.
we're going to kill the fucking guy. So you're not even going to get that.
It's a
And again,
screwball comedy with a body count. Like, it really is. That musical side. And I think, Sean, you're not wrong when you say that there is a certain amount of ownership that the audience takes over, particularly with a sequel. But you also have to remember, like, we don't make this stuff. We
consume
borrow
it,
it for the
you're
price of
right.
a
Yeah,
ticket.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
No,
we
that's
pay
also
that,
true.
and you kind of get what you're given. And a lot of the times, you know, like you were saying, Gus, with the Marvel stuff, it's like, yeah, eat your fucking slop, you fucking idiots. Like, eat all this shit. Have Ant-Man 3 or whatever the fuck it's called. It was, you know, and we're just taking it all. This was like, no, we're actually going to make you a sumptuous meal, and you know, maybe you don't dig it, maybe you don't like foie gras, but that's what we're making, you know.
And that's my takeaway, right? Is that I think this film fought. I mean, this is a closing comment. So after this, see, boys. No, but for my money, it's like I say, it's a more interesting concept than it is an interesting film. But at the same time, I really respect Todd Phillips and co. I fucking tip my hat to them because they've done everything that we've asked them to do. They took a punt, right? Like, how many times have we sat back and go, oh, do we really need fucking Spider-Man 14? Do we really need to see Batman's parents get killed again? How many
Yes.
fucking Avengers films?
That's
do we
my
have to
favorite
write?
bit.
Right? It's like how many, like, and they've taken a gargantuan, they've taken almost a $250 million budget, and they've given us exactly what we've asked for. Don't recycle the same shit over and over again. And they've taken a punt and they've given it to us. And unfortunately, in this circumstance, it hasn't resonated by appearances at the box office. But Jesus, man, that's a bold move. I tip my hat to you. Like,
Tim Burton
But,
did
but
the same
isn't
thing.
but isn't the bold
Yeah,
move not
he
to
did.
make isn't the bold move not to make a sequel at all?
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
but if you absolutely have to make a sequel, then
But
that's how you do it.
I had never ever considered what you had said, Sean, about us sort of feeling like when it comes to a sequel, there's a bit of ownership. And the reality is the fact that people went in droves to see this film and it did so well from an Academy Awards perspective, critics and fans loved it, and it made so much money. It made them compelled to come back when they clearly had said, we're not making a sequel to this film. And Todd Phillips still came back, Joaquin Phoenix still come back. So you can, I think if anything, you make the argument that this should be for the audience. If anything, there is a bit of ownership. But I also hear what you're saying. It's like, it was good that they didn't try and churn out the same shit that Marvel give us every film. But
It's a film
like you
loaded
said, it
with
doesn't resonate
contradictions,
with
isn't it?
everyone.
I think
really is
the
a
tenet
film
of a
loaded with
good sequel is what Bob Gale said about Back to the Future 2. You need to give them the
Yeah.
same movie but different, and that's kind of what they did. Like, it looks the same, it feels the same, but all of a sudden there's musical numbers that are recorded live on set. Like, you don't do that. You know, that's really particular. Like, from an audio engineer's perspective, to record on set is really hard. They are actual performances being belted out in that room with mics, as opposed to a Greatest Showman situation where it's all looped later. You know, Rebecca Ferguson, that's not even her voice in that movie. You know what I mean? Like, the rawness and the the character through the songs, like especially Joaquin, because he's not a great singer, but fuck, he gave it everything,
Yeah.
didn't he? You know,
Yeah.
like
I'll
that's
give him,
yeah, that was, and Lady Gaga. I mean, you know, cultural icon up to a point, absolutely, but she's an incredible performer and
Oh
an
my God.
incredible singer,
Yeah.
and she's a fucking great actress. She's really, really good.
This is like, this is the one of the most satisfying things for me is seeing her in this movie, because I, like the rest of the world, was, I think, iffy when she first started getting into acting, and then I saw Star Is Born, and I was like, well, I didn't think Lady Gaga would be my favorite actress this year, but there you go.
Yeah.
Because she was phenomenal. I was like, what are you going to do next? And for her to be like, I'm going to be Harley Quinn in the Joker sequel, I was like, all right, interesting move. For her to be Harley Quinn in this fucking Joker sequel, I was like, I want to watch everything you do for the rest of your career. This is phenomenal. And she's the star of this movie. Like Harley Quinn, or Lee, as they call her in this movie, is the star of this film in the way that she is holding all the cards, it seems, and also has an infinitely more interesting story than Arthur Fleck,
Yeah.
because she's obviously plotting in a way that he just never was.
But does she? Like, does she?
Does she what?
I'm gonna respectfully push back on you in this one, guys. Does she have an interesting, like, she's almost outside of, she's borderline Deus Machina. Like,
Yeah.
she has no movement, she has no growth or development. She's got no.
It's
like,
because that's
outside-
because she's a
outside of-
sociopath. Like that's there shouldn't be any of that, you know.
Yeah, but then if that's the case, then my argument would be, I don't think she's enough of a sociopath.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
She's
all
got a
right,
little
yeah.
bit of sprinkling of sociopath.
Yeah.
She does some crazy things, but she's not the Joker, right? The
No.
Joker is insane, and is because of his insanity, like kind of like Ben Kingsley in Sexy Beast, because
yes,
because he's so unhinged, you cannot take your eyes off of him. Like the Joker in The Dark Knight, you just like, this guy is out of his fucking mind, right? But Harley Quinn's not. Like, I would argue even, and I haven't thought this out, I'm working on the fly,
Yeah.
but I would argue that you might even be able to take Harley Quinn out of Joker 2 and replace the motivations for Arthur Fleck that she provides as his own insane, unreliable narrator, and the film would almost be the same.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, I was going to say, can I just... I feel like Harley Quinn encapsulates this whole thing of celebrity. She's obsessed with the celebrity. And that's how we all... And then at the end, when she doesn't realise it's all it's cracked up to be, or he doesn't portray the thing that she wants to be, that's when she's out. Do you know what I mean? It's just this obsession with someone, seeing someone from a distance, and she's, I saw that telly movie like 4 or 5 times, and
But
she
that
just wants to be
doesn't
there.
a
She
good
wants to be...
character make.
Sorry?
That doesn't a good character make.
No. But that's where I'm agreeing with you. I just thought that was an interesting take on
It is an
celebrity.
interesting aspect.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. But I don't think that Lee Quinzel, I don't think that she is a particularly. I think we're enamored by Gaga's performance. I think we're enamored by Gaga's singing. I think we're enamored by the cinematography and Todd Phillips' direction. And possibly even we're enamored by how bold a choice it is to have somebody like the casting coup that it is, to put somebody like Lady Gaga. But if you objectively stand back and look at the character of Lee Quinzel, I'm not sure that she actually offers that much to the film. I genuinely don't.
This is where I think it's one of the most interesting things about her is I agree from a story point of view that she could potentially be removed or rewritten, but I don't think that's why she's there, and I don't think that's the point. I think Lee Quinzel is there because she is very blatantly the audience of Joker 1. The whole point of her character is, we love Joker. We saw you, we loved you, we became obsessed, we watched that movie so many times, and now we want you, and we want to make you what we want you to be. We're going to do all the things to make you what we want you to be. And when it's revealed, I'm not that. And when he's pushed, he actively like lashes out and goes, I was never that. I'm not that. I never, ever wanted to be that. And I never was that. She goes, oh, fuck that. That's exactly what the fucking audience of Joker and Joker 2 did. And I think, yes, you could remove her in film character, and it wouldn't change the story so much, but it would change the film and it would change the intent of the film so dramatically. It would not be in any way as interesting a piece of film as it is. Because I think this film really is like, it is layers on layers on layers on layers of essentially.
It's deceptive,
to the
isn't
point
it?
where it almost stops being a movie at some point and just kind of becomes this image in front of you that's like, you were so wrong. The thing that you watched and all the attitudes you had, you were wrong. And we're going to force you to face the fact that you're wrong. We're going to have the character sit down and tell you that's not what I am. And that's going to be your movie. He's not going to do the cool shit you want. He's not going to do the laugh. He's not going to have any schemes. He's going to fucking sit in a courtroom and be like, that's not what I am. And then he's going to leave. And I think she is there essentially as the embodiment of what Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix probably felt for the last 4 years. Going, can you fucking believe what people think about the movie we made? Can you believe how badly they missed the point we thought we were making? Can you believe how fucked this character of Joker has become in the eyes of like all the wrong sorts of people? What can we do about this? Okay, well, we'll make this movie and burn it all to the ground. And we're going to put a character in there that is the audience, and they're all going to be like, there. It's like, well, that's you. That's you fucking idiots. I read
maybe you're right.
I read a review which really really captured me, but just the headline alone, I think, is a good kind of jumping off point, which is that Joker Part 2 hates you. Do you hate it back? And that's like the feeling about this movie that I took away. Yeah, like this movie doesn't care about you. So all of the things we've talked about, you know, what it is to be a sequel, a franchise, a long established character, something that audiences feel a certain relationship to, if not ownership over, as something that exists outside of just the one movie. This movie doesn't care about you in that regard.
Specifically you, Sean. Everybody else?
Everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, we all got a different ending. The ending of our movie, Joker like came out as like, ah.
Yeah.
But then here's my thing, right? Is that if that's true, and it might be true, and I'm willing to say that there's a good chance that it is, right? But even if that's true, isn't that unbelievably disrespectful to the audience?
Yeah.
Isn't that like, oh, you guys showed up in droves and you guys turned this $50 million sort of quote unquote superhero film into a financial and cultural juggernaut. You gave us $1 billion of your hard-earned dollars. Fuck you. Here's the next one. Eat a bag of dicks.
I don't think it's disrespectful. I think it's a filmmaker being a provocateur, which is fucking what they were. Like in the 70s and stuff, if you look at that period of time, that's what they were doing. You know, they were asking questions, they were antagonizing, they were protesting.
They were asking questions and they were antagonizing, but they weren't disrespecting the audience. They weren't disrespect. If you go back and you watch something like Abel Ferrara's 70s and 80s grindhouse-esque films, Fear City, Driller Killer, blah, 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 he was pushing the envelope. He was pushing the envelope on a low budget. He was challenging the audience in a big, big way. Go back and watch Miss 45 and try and put yourself in like whatever it was, 1980, whenever that was made, and wonder, like, this would have been like a fucking nuclear bomb going off. But he never disrespected the audience the way that, if what Angus is saying is true, he never disrespected the audience the way that Todd Phillips is then disrespecting the audience.
But is he disrespecting is he disrespecting the audience for showing up and watching Joker, or is he retaliating to the aftermath of the film in the years that followed? I don't think.
Then that brings us back to the original point: is you put it out to us, Tom, Todd. You put it out to us, and this is what we took from it. That's not our fault.
Yeah.
If your message wasn't clear enough, that's on you. Now you want to have the balls to quadruple your budget and flip us the bird.
But do you feel the same way then about the appropriation of Snowflake in response to Fight Club?
Yeah,
when
that's what I was going to say.
It's Chuck Palahniuk were like,
audience, like,
who
are dumb and are taking the wrong message. That's not because the message was weak. It's because their minds are weak. Do you know what I mean? Like that, especially with the Fight Club analogy was exactly the same one I was going to use. That these things get misappropriated by the wrong people, and all of a sudden Fight Club is like this masculine incel text. I'm like, did you read the book? Like, did you fucking read the book?
Like, do you remember, to digress slightly, do you remember when Fight Club got released, there was the police broke up in Springvale here in Melbourne, Australia. There's a suburb called Springvale, and there was a bunch of underground fight clubs that occurred because they were taking inspiration from Fight Club, and you're like, you fools, you are missing the point. Like, you might be right, Regan. Like, you might be right. You might be right. But
can I also say,
can I jump in? Like, the thing about it, I agree with all the points you've all made, but the reality is that I'd like to think all four of us are pretty intelligent on this podcast. Maybe not me so much.
I'm just a thick idiot from Frankston, mate.
When I was studying cinema and media many years ago, the cold hard light of day is like, there are going to be those films that all four of us would see the subtext and understand and look at all the different layers. But the majority of people that go to cinemas or watch TV shows, the common denominator is they're not the smartest, most intelligent people. So you can't.
Or let's be more polite and say they're not educated on the language of film the way that we are. Shall we say that?
No. Let's not tell people who watch movies they're idiots on our movie podcast.
No.
Comment, subscribe.
I can tell when they used to write TV shows, they had to write them a certain way that they weren't too intellectual. Like, it's like, not too convoluted. They have certain points where they bring in the music so that you know what's about to happen, because that's how they form. And this is not me saying that people aren't intelligent enough, but that's how shows and movies, especially in the 80s and 90s, or probably even the 70s, were written in a certain way because they had to conform to the lowest common denominator of people that watch TV. And so that you weren't getting this intellectual film all the time. And when we do, if there's a lot of people, like something like a property or IP that is the Joker, whatever you want to say, a character from DC, you're going to make a movie that is a little bit different and has all these subtext and these interesting ideas that Angus has reeled off, and or all three of you have reeled off. The problem is, a lot of people are going to see this film or saw the first film are not going to get it, or maybe won't get it. So they're, of course, like Regan said, weak of mind. Like, it's not that unfortunately they're just not on that level. They probably just go to a Joker film and expect just this basic kind of thing. They're not going to understand the subtext and all the extra stuff that's going on. Oh, he's out.
But isn't that a great reason to do it? Like, raise the fucking bar.
Raise the bar,
I completely agree.
No, I get it, but I still think... Yeah.
Finish your thought, Cable. Finish your thought.
Oh, yeah, you go, Cable.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I sort of see... It kind of is... I can understand why people have pushed back on this film and why it's got so a low score audience-wise, and why people... Like what Sean's saying, that maybe it is a finger to the fans, because you're taking an existing IP that a lot of people do love. Like I said, it's my favourite villain. I'm not offended by this film by any stretch, but I can understand why people are, because they don't understand it. They don't maybe get it. They probably have to watch it second or third time. I don't know. But when you start maybe fucking around with IP, and especially stuff that people love, it's a big deal, and you want to hit it out of the park, and you just got to be careful. It's great to try new things, but if you go way too the wrong way, it's I don't know. It is
from Sean's point before, and I guess you're probably right about him giving the finger to the audience, but maybe it's a select group of the audience.
Well, I was going to say that
I don't think he's doing it to.
Yes.
Yeah. We got it.
That's also true. I never considered that. It's a bizarre film because, like, for me anyway, it's so full of contradictions. Like there's something like just in that portion that we were just talking just then, probably look, I was getting really arced up, fuck you, and but at the same time, right, it's just like, yeah, man, like that kind of rises me the wrong way. You get given the world $250 million to go make a film, and you flip the bird to the audience. That's on this side. This little devil here is, but then there's the fucking angel here. It's just like fucking good on you, Todd.
Yeah, that's a
Well
good
done.
move, buddy.
It's like, yeah, right. It's, and I can't work out which camp that I'm sitting in. And if I'm struggling with it, and I will probably like you guys, I'll sit and overanalyze a film to the end to get my head around it, to understand it, and blah blah blah. And it's a frustrating film because there's those two fucking angels, like an angel and a devil on my shoulder, and I can't work out where I'm landing on it.
It can be both, though. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Oh,
it
that's
can
also true.
absolutely
I
be
can
both.
walk and chew gum at the same time. Not your true. Yeah,
you can. Yeah, pat your head and rub your motherfucking stomach. It's all good. Like tomorrow, you could wake up like you're absolutely under no pressure to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. If all of a sudden we get to the end of this thing and you're like, Joker 2 is my favorite movie ever, I've decided. Like, and then tomorrow you wake up and go, nah, it actually is Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo still. Like that's totally fine as well. I just thought I'd throw in a sequel in there for the Joker.
One of the best. It brings to mind, this movie brings to mind a bit like a feeling I had about, is it another 2024 release, a film called Abigail. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Little girl ballerina gets kidnapped. And I mean, anyone listening to this podcast, spoilers, but it's not even a spoiler, and that's the thing. A little girl gets kidnapped.
Oh, they fucking shafted that film. But
anyway. It turns out she's a vampire and her dad is basically Dracula. But that's a twist that comes, 35, 40 minutes into the movie that was put into the trailer of the film because studios had so little faith in the audience to be able to go and watch a movie. And this movie feels... in response to not only like the Marvel sort of oversaturation, in response to how audiences took Joker after the fact, it also feels a bit like a response to this insane over predictability of movies that the studio insists that we have, where you go to a movie and you know everything that happens in that movie except maybe one or two things, and those one or two things are usually celebrity cameos that they manage to hide. Like, when Johnny Storm shows up and it's like, that's not Captain America, that's Johnny Storm. You're like, oh my God. Or like Brad Pitt walks into a scene of a Matt Damon movie. You're like, that's Brad Pitt. I didn't know he was in this. Like, that's what we get as a surprise. We have no fucking idea where this movie's going until it's over. And then we sit back and go, fuck. I haven't felt that way in particularly a mainstream movie in a very long time. And I sat down in Joker 2 thinking, I'm going to watch Joker 2. All I've heard is, it's a musical, and part of it is a courtroom drama. And even though that is what happens, in no way does that prepare you for what the movie is.
No, it's not. It's even probably it's probably even disingenuous to call it a musical. I don't think it's a musical. I think the film was hurt by that. Yeah, I think the film was hurt quite a lot by that.
It has some singing.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say a lot of singing still, though. I wouldn't say. I think you're right. I don't think you should be. If someone asks, "Oh, what's a Joker about?" and you go, "Oh, it's a musical." I wouldn't say that, but I do think there's a lot of singing.
But when I heard singing and courtroom drama, I was expecting like Billy Flynn style Chicago numbers in the courtroom, Joker on the table and chorus girls, and the judge rips off his fucking robe and there's sequins or something.
A Few Good Men on stage,
Low, real,
A Few Good Men musical
singing in an insane asylum, or like one musical number that's kind of like the musical number where they're sort of the fantasy game, fantasy talk show, but even that is like deliberately not quite right. Like it's not really good the way they do it.
If Todd Phillips, I mean, like if everything that we're discussing just now is true and it is accurate, and Todd Phillips really does have this level of control on this film, right? And not just the internal workings of the film, but how it's going to be perceived and how the audience is going to take it and blah, blah, blah. Then, I mean, Todd Phillips has got to be up there with like the modern titans, like Nolan and shit like that. Like, I mean, like, is that what we're talking about here? Is that too lofty for a small podcast like ours?
Isn't that like the most baffling thing of all?
Yeah, like is that what we're talking about here? Is Todd Phillips actually a fucking genius?
Todd Phillips
he's-
is basically Kevin Spacey at the end of Usual Suspects. He was Kaiser Söze all the
I
time.
thought you were going somewhere else then.
Oh, right.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
basically Kevin
when you-
Spacey at the end of his
of
career.
his career.
Sticky hands. No, that's something I thought of like so much about when I was watching it after. It's like the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing us he didn't exist, and that's what Todd Phillips does in this movie. Is like the Joker never existed. It was all a fantasy. It was all a fallacy. It was.
There's someone in a bed right now in a hospital, and they're like, "What? Tell me about Todd. Tell me about Todd Phillips." And he's just going, "Kaiser Susie," like that. It's Kaiser Susie.
But you know what? I guess the big thing is now is what does Todd Phillips do next?
And that's what I'm very keen on, because the next will determine whether or not he
Road Trip
is,
too.
you know,
Whether
modern,
it's-
is he a
Yeah,
modern
like-
genius, or did we just infer a lot of stuff because of an accident that he made?
Yes,
Or-
exactly. Like I had a broken clock; it was correct twice a day. Is Todd Phillips that fucking clock? Like, is he Eric Bana in Chopper? Like, we just fucking nailed it. Like, it was just everything came together for that one project that, shall we say, is the Joker arc. Like, you know, or is it like, is his next film? Is he going to do like a Kevin Smith or Guillermo del Toro, where he gives us an absolute work of genius and then he brings it all the way down for a small, quiet, personal film, and then he gives us a work of genius and then he brings it all the way down for a small and private film? Like, whatever Todd Phillips does next, I think is going to probably. It might even be fair to say that whatever Todd Phillips does next might even determine what Joker 2 actually is.
Yeah, or
I think
if
it will
it
be
will
appreciated in
change over
retrospect.
time and people look
Correct.
back on it and go, that was actually the shit. Yeah.
It was actually a work of fucking genius. Like,
that's it,
He
because
might do an
it's-
Adam McKay. I mean, Adam McKay, you know, made comedies for ages, and then all of a sudden he's making fucking
Dick Cheney
Vice
biopics.
Vice and
And what was the particularly good? The
Big Short was incredible.
Big Short's a great
Which is
picture. You know,
fine,
Vice
it's like a
not great.
amalgamation. And
But yeah, I think that's kind of, you know, maybe his trajectory is like go back to comedy, but not all the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth remembering, like Joker 1 is not, like you talked about before, Sean, it is not an original movie. It is King of Comedy again with Taxi Driver thrown in, except this time the guy's the Joker. You look at almost every frame of that movie and go, I have seen all this before, but Joker 2, I haven't seen anything
It's not
like that before. So this is the only original idea I've really seen from Todd Phillips in his career. Not to say that like his earlier comedies weren't funny and I didn't watch them a lot when I was in high school and uni, because I fucking did. But
Road Trip got a big rotation.
Road Trip, great. There's 3 fucking Hangover movies. Like, originality was not necessarily in this guy's bag, including like, I'm going to take on a very well-established character, and the only twist I'm going to do is I'm going to put him in another movie that has already been made. And now suddenly he's come out with this thing that's like, you've never fucking seen this before anywhere, let alone as the sequel to a $1 billion property. What he does next will tell us, has he like leveled up and crossed the threshold to become this modern fucking mastermind? Or did he just get lucky because he was working with an incredible crew on the first Joker and they all got together and were like, we've got a great idea. Like, Joaquin Phoenix, I think, is an undeniable element in this equation, because we've seen him do this before. We've seen him just burn it to the ground before for a laugh. We've seen him take on absurdly good but completely out of nowhere roles, like him in The Master, him in Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. Like, time and time again, he shows us he can fucking just drop the hammer, and Todd Phillips hasn't. So is this a Harley Quinn Joker situation where it's not actually Todd Phillips, it's Joaquin Phoenix that is the real kind of mover and shaker in this? And we won't know until his next project. And
does anybody know if he's got anything like cooking or?
I hope he does, because currently
I was just looking. I was going through his movies. So his first big movie obviously was Road Trip, then Old School, then Starsky and Hutch, School for Scoundrels, The Hangover, Due Date, Hangover Part 2, Hangover Part 3, War Dogs, Joker, and Joker Folie.
If you look at the trajectory though, like, I mean, you're going from comedy, and then War Dogs is not a comedy.
War Dogs,
but it does
was
star
weird,
like
Comedy
Jonah
people,
Hill. It's a comedy cast. He's got nothing. According to the internet, he has nothing pre-production, in production, nothing like that, which is incredibly rare when you look at somebody's
On IMDb, I mean, I've got something upcoming on IMDb for crying out loud.
Yeah, and I wonder if part of that, like we talked a lot
Is
about,
because he lost the studio $400 million.
Well, this is a $200 million movie to make. That's not including advertising. Currently, the worldwide box office, according to Box Office Mojo, sits at $206,400,287.
Which means that for
it's in the
those
red.
listening at home, if a film's budget costs $200 million, for a film to make profit, it doesn't have to make $201 million because they're not factoring in marketing costs.
Yeah.
And usually the cost
it's
of
usually
the budget again. Or so again. So if it's a $200 million production, it's actually budget. It would be about $400 million, which means that for the film to get in the green, it has to make $401 million. And the fact that the Joker is sitting at $200 million means that he's probably lost the studio to $250 million on this film.
That's why they pushed it to VOD so quickly, because they're like, we've got to make some of this back.
Yeah.
People who don't want to go out, they might do it as a curio, or they might do a fucking podcast about it and all have to watch it at home.
Yes, which I did. Oh, actually, how did we all watch this? Because I know Gus watched it at the cinemas.
Big screen, baby. Cinema in an almost empty theater.
Cinema,
I counted on the way out. There were 8 people in the cinema. I saw it. It had been out for, I think, 12 days. So less than 2 weeks.
I think when you
were at a 9 o'clock showing on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I think you must have messaged me just after you saw it. You're like, we've got to do a podcast about this. We've got to do it, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, I reckon the next time I could have seen the movie was a few days after that or whatever. And I started looking, and I'm like,
gone.
Oh, it's literally nowhere. Like, it's like one session at 3 p.m. at Southland in Europa or something like that. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's like, it was dead and buried, like, within the second week, you know.
This movie did so poorly. When I went and saw it, I saw it with a buddy of mine, and we showed up to the cinema at different times. So I showed up before him. I went and bought my ticket, and then my buddy showed up like a little bit later, and we both went up to the box office together. And my buddy's like, "Oh yeah, can I get a ticket to Joker 2?" And the guy selling tickets went, "Oh, another one." And he was surprised that 2 guys were going to see this movie. Like, that's how little people were buying tickets to this movie, that if 2 people showed up to see it, they were like, whoa, big night. Like,
do we think at all that it might have some, because I was having this conversation with Alex, and do you think it's like superhero fatigue? I know it's not a superhero movie, but it's comic book based. Or do you think that it took too long because of COVID and everything? Like, are people in 2019 or 2018 more willing to go for this kind of thing, this kind of material, than they are after 2 or 3 years of lockdowns and all that kind of stuff? Are they coming out going, you know what, we just would like the Wild Robot and Super Mario and whatever else you got that's nice and chewy and sweet. This fucking stuff that might actually have insight into, you know, the mental deficiencies or the way that these people are not taken care of in institutions, or, you know, the system of government that we have in some countries where people who commit crimes get free and then they escalate and it goes from being sex crimes to murder, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's all too much. We would just really like Chris Pratt doing a cat voice or something, you know?
No, I still think there's a bit of a lull with people going back to the cinemas after COVID, especially in Melbourne. I think, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I hear different podcasts and people talk about, you know, the levels of numbers of going back to the cinemas is not the same as pre-COVID. And I do think people will go out for a big movie, and especially if there's good word of mouth and good, you know, good critic scores and all that sort of stuff, people will go out. I think you just mentioned a couple of kids' films. I think people are still taking their kids, or kids still want to experience the cinema. They're going, but I do wonder if there's any inkling, if someone's sitting on the fence, you start hearing negative reviews or anything not positive, you ain't going. Or people aren't making the effort to go, and they're like, I can just stream it now. I'll wait till streaming.
I think there was 2 big factors with Joker, and I think it's, unfortunately, I think it's probably the 2 most obvious factors, is the misnomer that everybody said that it was a musical, right? As opposed to a film that has musical interludes. Because they're not the same thing. This is not Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's not Wicked.
Yeah, and they're not original pieces of work either. They're plays.
Right.
Musical,
So 1, it's not a musical. People get the wrong idea. And 2, people were led to believe that it was a 2.5 hour film, which it wasn't. The runtime states 2 hours 20, but almost 10 minutes of that in the back end was credits. It was like 8 minutes of credits or something.
Yeah.
The original film was 2 hours and 3 without credits or something like that.
Really?
So it wasn't really that much different. But I think those two factors really, really, really suffered. The film suffered underneath those two elements, which is, I genuinely can't think of anything else, because IMDb, I mean, if you put any stock in IMDb, but IMDb lists Joker as like in the top 100 films of all time.
Yeah, can't.
Like, of all time. Like, pump the brakes, guys. Like,
with
people are going to go see
Letterboxd
it.
love doing, like, all-time lists, and the first Joker is, over 1 million logged on Letterboxd, and it's in the top 100.
I mean, even when people put The Dark Knight in those lists, I'm a little bit skeptical of. I'm like, have you seen Double Indemnity? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's a good movie, but I'm just saying,
It's like recency bias is a thing, and I also wonder if that's working against Joker 2 in that we're not outside of, I guess, this podcast where it sounds like we kind of appreciate it even if we don't love everything about it. I don't think this movie's going to be appreciated for a decade probably. And I think there is a good chance. I'm not saying this will happen, but I think there's a good chance we look back to this as almost like a watershed moment where superhero movies, or just comic book movies in general, after Joker 2, have a bit more freedom to be a bit different, but also kind of respond in the way that Deadpool and Wolverine responded to all of the fallings and failings of the Marvel Universe by essentially doing what is basically a modern-day satire of the Marvel Universe, but in-house. It's like Airplane, but with Marvel characters. Saying like, how shit is the multiverse? How much has everything sucked for a while? I wonder if this movie will allow other superhero movies and other movies in general, like other franchises, other films, to kind of go, oh, hey, we can all take a step back for a second, and we don't have to do the same thing again and again. Hopefully we make more money than Joker 2, but we can kind of look at what came before and go, actually, no, we're not going to just walk down that road. We're going to try and be a bit different with something other than a little indie. That may not happen, but it could be a chance that we look back in 10 years ago. You know when superhero movies started getting really fucking good again? After Joker 2.
Yeah.
Like, the next superhero movie that DC is doing, I think, is the Superman movie.
Superman,
This could be, like, the greatest Superman movie ever. I mean, every movie could be the best movie ever until it comes out. But it could be the greatest Superman movie ever, and that could be perhaps because of lessons learned in Joker. Is that too big of a bow to draw? Quite possibly. But I think there's a chance this movie, like, changes stuff long term. I think in the interim, Todd Phillips is going to get his ass handed to him by the fucking studio, because this movie is never making $400 million. It is never, ever getting that $200 million that it's down back. No amount of Blu-rays, 4Ks, VOD is going to amount to $200 million fucking dollars.
No, not the long term. But I think you might be right at being a watershed moment, because you know what else was a watershed moment? Batman Returns. They fucking pulled the handbrake on that movie, and then we got Forever. Not too bad. And I mean, they're interesting artifacts now, Forever and Batman and Robin. If you look at them now, they're
Batman
like,
Forever fucking rocks, and I'll think none of it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in terms of the way you look at it, is it should have been this, and then Nolan came and did the gritty realism thing and stuff like that. Again, it was, and I still think that you said Superman, the new Superman, might be the greatest superhero movie of all time. We all know that Batman Returns is the greatest superhero movie of all time.
No, I said the greatest Superman movie.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. Yeah, but no, I mean, these things happen.
Superhero movie.
They do. They have a cultural aftertaste. Like people are like, remember the fucking Joker 2? That shit was whack. But then immediately after that, you're right, Gus. We got fucking Superman ruled, and then Aquaman was awesome. If they knew another Aquaman, I don't know, or whatever the hell James Gunn's going to be doing, Brave and the Bold, and then Marvel's going to do their thing. Blade finally came out, or whatever the fuck, like that's
Blade's
parallel universe.
Binned.
It doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Blade hurts.
It's been binned. It's officially been binned.
Oh, that's all right. Mahershala wants to. Would you say he wanted to run across the street and play Martian Manhunter?
He wants to be John Johns.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Nice.
He's put the call out. He wants to go to James Gunn and John Johns.
Give it to him.
What I think is probably the
100%.
most interesting thing about, like, where with specifically with comic book and superhero movies going next. Like, where does the next iteration of Joker go? The only real kind of glimpse we have is Barry Keoghan's Joker in the Batman universe.
Well, I think they're doing a Penguin-style series with him is the plan.
That would be a terrible idea, and I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, I agree.
But what I wonder is if it's going to change how they utilize him in the sequel film, because they're still being very cagey about whether or not he's even in it. But we could see just in him, like in the way that Heath Ledger's Joker was sort of, everyone was like, what are you doing? Jack Nicholson is the fucking Joker. How dare you? And then it was so different. Everyone was like, no one ever do Joker again. And then Joaquin Phoenix did Joker, and it was so fucking different.
There was another one in there that you forgot. You skipped over what? You skipped over what? You skipped over a Joker? You know what I'm talking about. You know, with the tats and the gold teeth and the thing.
Everybody hates it, but I actually quite like
Don't know what
it.
you're
I
talking
think it'd
about.
be like the only person on planet Earth that I'm just like, you know what? I'd watch a fucking film of that.
Hey, look,
Joker.
man, I like Morbius, so whatever. Maybe it's just JL, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Regan. It's been lovely to see you. I'm sorry you had to go. I'm so sorry, but
Regan has left the chat. Yeah. It's.
And then
I don't disagree with the cultural kind of progression of the Joker character, and we've always had one. He's always been ever present. Maybe just leave it for a little while, and I mean, can we please just get King Tut? Or you know, in a Batman movie, or the Condiment King, or you know, the fucking Court of Owls, something like in seriousness.
Is the big rumor. With Court of Owls is the big rumor.
It's got to be done, right? It's the biggest Batman story of the last 20 years is the Court of Owls story.
It also suits the Batman world the best, I think, in terms of
That's what I was going to say. It's far more aligned with the sort of lo-fi trend that we had last year. I'd be curious to see how they pull it off. Also shot in Glasgow, FYI. Glasgow looks
the
like
new one or
Gotham
the
City.
is
The
that
Batman.
right?
Is that why it looks so
big
fucking
Well, it's
bleak
cold
and
and bleak,
scary?
so
Yeah.
Looks like a
Good
place I
chunk of it was
never
shot in
want to
Glasgow.
go.
No, I know. That's my homeland, guys.
It's the only time
Oh,
I've
we
ever
know.
seen someone win a fight while vomiting. It was amazing. I've never seen anything quite like it. In the street, a guy was like, "Wah, wah," and then it was incredible.
Edinburgh is
saw
my
something-
favorite city in the world. I love Edinburgh.
Is it really?
That's how I feel about Scotland.
But even then, Edinburgh. My mate used to live in Edinburgh, and he went out one night and with his pals, and he got out of the pub. Says as soon as I stepped out of the pub, there was like blood on the sidewalk. He
Jeez.
says there was a fucking trail of it. It just like wound and just. He goes, but that was the way that I was going home. He says, and I fucking had to follow this blood trail. He says, in every corner that I took, he says, I was following this blood trail. He says, and it was just, that was my way home. He says, he says, it's my fucking neighbour. He gets stabbed and he just fucking walked home, like, just bleeding on the ground. He says, oh my God, this is fucking wild.
The fucking gobshite stabbed me.
I know. Wake up in the morning, his fucking chest is hanging up. He's like, you know, I fucking put it back on again.
Yeah, he just poured some
Absolutely
brown sauce
awful.
on it, got up the next day and went to work. He was fucking fine.
Some brown sauce. Oh, you get the
HP.
duct tape.
They build him tough in Scotland. It takes more than a fucking stabbing to slow you down.
Well, I mean, it's nice to see you, Sean, though. I mean, you're a bit of an expat living in Australia as a Scottish person, and then apparently moving to Arrakis. What's going on behind you there, mate? It looks warm as
look,
shit.
That's fine.
Arrakis.
If I'm being honest, it's because you can see here, right? My LED ring is dying of battery, and it was actually, it was very bright
It
when
was
we
very
started.
orange before.
It was very orange, yeah. But now, like, all I've got is
It's
my
setting. The sun's setting.
Yeah, so-
I reckon
so
if you
the
pan
sun-
the camera just a little bit, Zendaya's in there. That's all I'm saying.
I know. So it did start, but now I'm starting to look like I've stepped out of a fucking Nicholas Winding Refn film.
You too. It's a little Only God Forgives. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it does, doesn't it?
What a great counterpoint to this movie. Like after Drive, he makes Only God Forgives. After Joker, Todd Phillips makes Joker Folie Do.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people just come out of the fucking gates with something insane. If no one here has
Yeah.
watched Only God Forgives, then you are with the majority of people because no one saw that movie. But listeners,
I saw it. I loved it.
I saw it at the
fucking
cinema again.
excellent.
Another movie I saw in the cinema with like
cinema.
8
I
people
thought it was
and 4 of them walked out.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
fucking love it.
Really?
It's great. Yeah, it was
I
incredible.
didn't realize that I was in the company. There was 6 of us that saw that movie in total, the
Fucking
entire run, and I was one
incredible
of them.
film. I love that movie so much.
I really like it.
I
actually
don't. I don't think
like
he's
it.
made a. I don't think he's made a bad movie.
No, he's pretty great.
No, he's pretty consistent. I
The
give you
TV
that.
show,
Cocaine
Too
Too
Cowboy.
old to die young.
Too Old to Die Young,
Oh,
was
Too
a
Old to Die Young.
real tough watch, but not because it was bad, but because it was bleak and
Yeah.
fucking oppressive in a lot of places. But it was still a really good, piece of cinema.
He's just released a second one as well. Not a follow-up, but another TV show.
Yeah.
That he actually shot in Copenhagen, I think. If I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
something cowboy. You were right, Gus.
Copenhagen Cowboy or Cocaine
Copenhagen Cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got the score
he's
to
a-
it for some reason, but I've never seen the show. But it's
He's
if the
unbelievable.
score
Of course
is-
you have.
Unbelievable.
It's like
He's
it's what you would expect
unbelievable.
from a
Yeah.
Nicholas Winding Refn score. It's fucking hectic and confusing. And if it's anything, if what is on the screen matches the music at all, I'm in.
Yeah.
We talked a lot of around the film. We've talked nothing about specifics of what happens in the film. And before we start to wrap this up, there's one scene that I think is worth talking about, and that I thought was the highlight of the movie, in the courtroom where Joaquin Phoenix is representing himself as a lawyer, and he just starts talking like a Southern lawyer.
Yes.
Start talking like
And marches around
Tennessee
the
Williams.
And
He's Matthew
is
McConaughey in fucking Time to Kill.
out of his
Yeah.
mind. But also, it's one of the most harrowing things with his mate from the first film,
Gary.
who's
Bubbles.
a broken human being who is trying to express to him, like, you have ruined like letting me live ruined my life. I am so scared. I trusted you, and now I was never scared before. I'm scared now. And he's just like, well, if it pleases the court, sir, I'd like to like just that one moment in the film is worth everything. It's worth the whole movie existing for that, because fuck, it is just an actor at his absolute peak, just showing you he is completely free with this character. And
This is the
as
guy
a
who plays
performer-
Puddles, right?
That's right. The guy who plays Puddles. He's phenomenal. It's director really kind of showing you where they can be pretty smart. It's one of the more restrained moments from the director. He's like, I'm just going to let Joaquin cook. I'm not getting in the way of this fucking scene. And it comes together so brilliantly that when it finishes, you're like, I am so delighted by what I just saw. That was beautiful. It's such an incredible moment in the movie. And perhaps that's one of those moments that you watch and go, why couldn't the whole fucking movie be that? And I get it if you're one of the audience members who are like, oh, so you can do it. You can do funny, scary, but also deeply emotional scenes in this movie that really fuck with you, but also make you giggle. You just chose not to. But that's just going to lead me back to the thing we've been talking the whole time, where I feel like that's kind of the point, and I'll just be repeating myself. But were there any other individual moments in this movie that jumped out at you guys as just being like, oh, fuck, that was so cool?
No.
Silence
Particular
speaks
moments.
volumes.
I mean, for me, it was the. Sorry, excuse me. For me, it was the.
I swear to God, Reagan, I swear to God, I thought you were going to go, excuse me, guys. For me, I found that it was one of the things, like, that'd be fucking
To
perfect.
turn into a different person.
Yeah.
No, for me, it was, and not in a crass way. It was the incredibly awkward and like peculiarly placed sex scene.
Yes. That was
Because movies are so. I was talking about this on another show the other day, and we were talking about like how sexless movies are now. It's like fucking Marvel pictures, and people don't even touch dicks or kiss or nothing happens unless they're mummies and daddies. You know what I mean? Like, come on, we're human
Go
beings.
back to Brady Bunch era.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, and like it's really like immediate, and she's like using it to manipulate him. Obviously, like she can see it on her face, and it's a weird awkwardness to it. And I was like, amazing that they actually had the balls to do that for a change and go, yeah, people have sex for all different reasons, and sometimes they have sex because they're really fucked up and lonely, and sometimes they have sex because they want something, and that's just to be bold enough to do that and not have them lie down and have it be all sensual like it's the beginning of the fucking Room. Like, it was just, yeah, I was happy to see something like that take place in a movie that came out in 2024.
I thought, I mean, for me, it's probably the flashiest moment of the film, but it was the one shot when he got out the courtroom after the explosion, and the camera just follows
The
until
one,
this just
Beautiful shot.
into the taxi, out of the taxi, onto the street, onto the street. Then there's the collapsed dolly in front of him. Then the guy gets wiped out behind him. It's like, this is kind of Children of Men-esque in its execution. Like there's
good call.
there's a lot of moving elements here. Like it's the kind of thing that I can just imagine it's probably taken a fucking week by itself just to get that shot in the can. Like I thought
it's
it was
a massive flex too. It's like him saying like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm really good at this." In case you guys weren't sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
playing.
exactly.
I haven't been getting coverage. I've been, doing over 2 shots the whole film so that Joaquin could just play, and now have a look at this massive cinematic dick just fucking thunk,
And it's another thing that makes me feel like this is like it's very deliberate. The whole movie, like when he does do stuff like that, because it's not like this movie is incapable of giving us the thing that we expected or wanted when we went in. It's just like, no, that's just what we're choosing to do. Oh, by the way, yes, we can. Here you go. Here's this incredible one take of disaster and chaos and movement and action and all of this stuff happening at once.
Enthralling
I can fucking
as well.
do that and make it
not a
rock.
boring moment in it.
I'm just not gonna do it for the whole movie. Bad luck.
Yeah.
And the moment that immediately follows that, when he goes back to the famous stairs from the first movie that became like the clip of him dancing down the stairs, and he's back and she's there, and it's like, oh my god, like shit's gonna get real. We're back on the steps. Harley's there. He's escaped. The whole world's falling apart, and then it's just literally the opposite of what everyone kind of wanted and expected in that moment. Where she's just like,
it's a fucking breakup scene for crying out loud.
And then
and also
and he just lets them arrest him. It's
those stairs they're indicative of exactly what particularly Cable and Shaun were talking about. Is that he's coming down those stairs, and it's what's the song in the first one? Is it Rock and Roll Part 2 or something like that? I can't remember the name of the song.
I couldn't even tell you, honestly.
Yeah, it's the song when you hear it. And he's coming down the stairs and he's walking out of the thing. He's in the Joker go and he's dancing, and it's slow mo and it looks all cool and funky. Like that's his head. That's not him. And then everyone's going to that place in New York, I guess it is, or whatever, and they're taking photos and like, yeah, I'm cool like the Joker. No, you're not. Like he's not. That's not what they're doing. Like, do you know what satire is? Do you know what they're doing? Like that's indicative of Instagram culture of misappropriating something because you think it's cool when actually it's fucking that idiot going to the suicide forest and dabbing, like whatever that cat's name, but it's the one whose brother just sort of won a fight and whatever happened.
Logan.
Yeah, like that kind of thing of just like the misunderstanding of what something actually means on such a grander scale that you start wearing it around your neck like it's part of your personality.
Yeah, incredible. We did talk about the fact that like there's some other famous actors in this movie as well. Like Kathy Kinnear is in this movie, Brendan Gleeson is in this movie, Steve Coogan
What
is
has
in this
Kathy
movie.
Kinnear done to her face? She's so beautiful. What has she done to her face?
That's California, man, because there's no seasons. There's no evidence of the transience of things. So they think that aging is a disease. And the cure for the disease is fucking dirt or whatever the fuck.
That's the price.
Brendan
you pay to stay
Gleeson,
in
on the
movies
other
over a
hand,
certain age.
fucking golf clap for Brendan Gleeson, mate. You docked a couple of kegs there, boy. You're looking healthy. You're looking strong. I tip my hat to you, sir.
Yeah,
he's had a good couple of years
in this movie when he wants to. He's fucking good. And Coogan had that great scene that. Weirdly, like another interesting moment for me because that scene, you could have put literally any actor in that scene. It doesn't matter who the interviewer is. They don't have to be a really great actor or a really interesting presence. But I am almost certain I'm reading too much into it. But I took that to be, no, I'm going to put a fucking comedian in this scene as like the voice of like, yes, let's get down to the real Joker and let's work out what this is really about. And it's fucking Steve Coogan. It's one of the silliest men alive in this serious moment. It just felt like another moment where he's like, we're fucking around. This is all a joke. Like it just time again, I feel like they just give us little moments to be like, this is silly. We're making a silly joke. It's the Aristocrats. Ta-da!
Get on board. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually the more I think about it, Gus, I reckon you're probably spot on the money with the Aristocrats comparison. The more I think about it, the more I'm just like, yeah, I think I've and I'll be honest, I've changed my mind a little bit in the film from when I came in. I still don't think it's a fucking masterpiece, but I think it's probably, I think it's misunderstood. I definitely think it's misunderstood. I think it's misunderstood, and I think, like we say, we're gonna look back on it in 10 years' time, and we're gonna say, "Hey, remember when we didn't get it? Fuck, how did we miss it?" You know,
and let's have a look at it compared to the 14 other fucking Jokers that we've had in the interim. You know?
Yeah.
I think you say masterpiece, and I think it's really hard to kind of give a film that, you know, because a masterpiece means it's a perfect picture, and there's so few of those, especially in modern terms. Like, name the last movie that you felt was perfect, or that will stand the test of time, and that's really going to be what it is. People are going to look back on the first Joker, and will it be a masterpiece? We're not going to know for another 20 years. There's no way we can. It's like Lawrence of Arabia is what it is because of the time that we've had to digest it and to reanalyze it and to, you know, see it so many times,
contextualize it,
and discover what it could mean for then and what it does mean for now, and all that stuff that you do with cinema, which is why it's such a beautiful art form, because it can be so many things over time because they're static objects. Movies don't change, you do, and when you look back on them, it can mean one thing. Like, even something as simple as, has anyone tried to watch Teen Wolf in the last 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie is fucking terrible. Like, it's really bad.
Regan, I'll fucking do it. I will fucking do it. Don't make
It's
me watch
badly
it
made. It's
I'll
badly.
fucking do it.
Are you talking about Teen Wolf 2 or the first one?
No, not Teen Wolf TOO. No, not with the Batemans. I'm talking about the first one. It's not very well made. It's not very well acted. It's
not very funny.
It's not very funny. It's kind of super serious in places. There's some weird sex stuff going on. You know, one of the girls' names is Boof. Like, it's just
It's Boof.
You know, it's Spoof. What is it?
Boof.
Whatever. You're watching this picture, and I'm just like, this does not hold up when it did when I was a kid.
No,
but it's not the movie's fault. I'm different. Like, you know, so in 10 years' time, will the audience be different and look at Joker and go, actually, we were wrong? That was my point. Just took a long time to get there.
You know what I'm watching when we get off this podcast?
Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
Hurrah!
I do have the double pack. I've got Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2 sitting on my
Teen Wolf
shelf.
2 is the boxing one. I like boxing. I'm not very good at basketball, but I can do the other one.
No, but that's the funny thing. The basketball scenes, maybe that's where I've grown up too. It's like when you're a kid, you don't think about the skill and the basketball, but when you watch it as an adult, you go, oh, they're not even playing basketball. They literally got almost no one that can play basketball to do the basketball scenes. It's like, at least I can understand a few fill-ins and extras. Like the body doubles or something else that can do some of the action to replace Michael J. Fox and a couple of the other actors. But they literally got all the actors to try and play basketball, and it is the worst basketball you'll ever see on film ever.
Yeah, it's not exactly like, Hoosiers, you know. Like,
yeah.
I mean, one of them was like, he was 120 kilos or something. One of the guys. Chubbs. It's like, you're not doing any dunks, Chubbs. Come on, man.
Yeah, he even says to you, pass it, fat boy.
Yeah.
Best.
How did we get onto Teen Wolf again? Sorry, that was my fault. I derailed the whole thing,
I was just about to say, we started talking about...
We started talking with films don't change, we change. Like, I remember when I watched Teen Wolf, I used to fucking love it. But Teen Wolf hasn't changed, I've changed.
That's right, and it's true. Teen Wolf is a static object.
And that's...
I'm going to get that tattooed on me, Regan.
Teen Wolf is a static object.
Teen Wolf hasn't changed, I have.
Right.
No, you just got to get the basketball.
Right across my collar. Right across my collarbone. Teen Wolf hasn't changed. I have changed.
Get it in like Mandarin or something, and then when people ask you, you tell them, they're like, "What?
What?" That'd be so good.
Well, like,
it was on a podcast.
Gangster, like old English font that all like the tough guys get as like the collar pieces, and then when people actually read it, they're like, "What the fuck does that say?"
What does that say?
Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox.
Just this giant fucking Scotsman with this big chest fucking necklace, and it's about Teen Wolf.
Amazing. How good would that be?
I don't know if you guys have merch, but that should definitely be a T-shirt at the very least.
Yeah. Teen Wolf hasn't changed. I have changed.
That would be like the tattoo version of Joker Folie Deux. It's just like one big. You look at it, and you're like, "Wait, is that a fucking joke or is that for real?" I can't figure it out.
And people with tattoos worldwide will be up in arms because they're like, "That's not a real tattoo. Fucking hell, that's a joke tattoo."
Teen Wolf hasn't changed.
I'm so glad I gave this to you.
Make it as merch.
You're welcome.
Fucking make this t-shirt as merch.
Okay, sorry. What were we talking about? Joker
Shit.
2?
I think we've talked about it. I don't think there's anything left to say about this movie that we haven't covered. And
Gentlemen, this was a thoroughly enjoyable conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, man,
My
absolutely.
God, from Under Siege 2 to Teen Wolf and somewhere in the middle, Joker Folie. Dude. Maybe
It's an interesting triple bill that night, let me tell you. Starting with Teen Wolf and then Joker 2 and then Under Siege 2. It's like, fucking, what are you on, Fent? Christ, that's a weird
you're
one.
saying we have
for
to
it.
finish with Under Siege 2. Is that the home run movie of that trilogy?
I think that's absolutely the best of the bunch, yeah.
I've got 2 weeks off, and I've been waking up at. I've got the fucking biorhythms of a crack addict at the moment. I am waking up tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. I'm watching On the Siege.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening.
You have my word, sir.
Your fiance is gonna get up and just walk in the room and be like, "What?
My
the
fiance
fuck
is my
happening?"
wife.
Oh, you got
She's
married?
pregnant. Did I
didn't
tell
you?
you she's pregnant?
That's right. I
Oh,
forgot my
that's awesome.
invite
Yeah,
got lost.
congratulations.
I forgot you got married.
Your life is over now.
Done for. Yeah, March. Bubba's due in March, mid-March.
In March.
Oh, well, they
Wow.
can't be
Well,
born
let me
on the
tell you,
7th, 'cause that's my
Regan is
birthday
an
and I'll be mad.
exceptionally strong name for a girl or a boy.
But you know
I
what's
would
really
never
good,
do
and
it because of The Exorcist.
Yes.
What?
what's
I
great
was gonna
though,
mention
it's
that.
Angus is good too, especially because of the Scottishness of it all. Maybe.
No, I'm not calling my daughter Angus.
All right, Agnes then.
This
gonna
is my
name her after
daughter,
a hamburger?
Angus. Yeah, I know. How good's that? This is my daughter, Angus.
Or you should just call your daughter, like, your name. Just like, this is
Sean?
my daughter, Sean Crawford. I was like, that's
Have you seen
weird.
that Louis C.K. thing? Like, like, there's no rules when it comes to naming your kids. You can name your kid anything you want. There are
Like
no rules.
40 Fs.
No rules. There should be a couple of rules.
Yeah.
He says, I want to call my kid ladies and gentlemen so that I can say, ladies and gentlemen, my daughter. Like, and then when I get mad at them, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, please.
That's so funny. I was listening to Louis today, actually. I had some stuff on while I was working. So he's a legend. Cracks me
See,
up.
you two are just meant for each other. That's what we've learned on
Who's
this
that?
podcast.
Often been said.
Regan and I,
Yeah,
well,
Regan
yeah, I
and
mean,
Sean. Yeah.
Regan
Friends
and
a
I,
long
I mean,
time.
Regan and I have been friends a long time. Probably,
Yeah.
probably 2 decades. Close to 2
Probably
decades.
Easily,
time to take
yeah.
some next
I
time.
met you
Years.
before I met Dan and stuff. So and we've been friends for like 20 years next year. So yeah, it's been a long time. It's one of those
time.
friendships where we barely ever see each other, but when we do, no time has elapsed. at
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
and this isn't
right.
even really seeing each other because I'm
No, I know.
in wherever
You're in
the
the
Aurora
Aurora
Borealis is, and you are on a
I'm in
sand planet.
Arrakis.
About to be eaten by a fucking worm.
Yep.
The spice will flow.
Maybe not the best film of the year, but I would say the most interesting film of the year. Gents, this was fucking fun. Thank you for coming on board and talking all things Joker Folie Deux. Did any of us look up what Folie Deux translates to?
It
Folie
means
times
the
two.
two of
The Folie of
us.
two.
Yeah, the two of us together in madness is kind of the sort of literal translation of it.
Oh, there you
Folly.
go. Well,
Like you know the English word folly.
joke, isn't it?
Yeah. Folly of two.
So this is
The
a
madness
joke,
of two.
a joke of two. In other words, a joke sequel. It was in plain sight all along.
Yep.
Oh!
It should have just been Joker TOO.
Yeah. See
that
what
for
you did there.
everybody.
Well played.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Regan and Sean, thank you for joining us. Cable and I will be back next week, probably talking about Under Siege 2 at this fucking point.
Yes!
If you do not invite us on for that,
I don't know. It'll be a double header.
I will be so fucking mad at you.
It'll be
only
a
do
double
Under
bill. Under Siege 2 and Teen Wolf 2.
And
Yeah, you can only do
Teen
Under
Wolf 2,
Siege 2
it's
if you
gotta
do
be
Teen
I'm
Wolf 2
here.
as well.
Yep.
I'm
yep.
here. I'm only here if Reagan's here.
Yes.
And just remember, not all sequels suck.
I feel like I derailed that a lot.
Sequel suck fans.
By definition alone, they're inferior films.
I almost sequel remake. A quick warning. This episode is crazy.